Hello, everyone.
Hi everyone, my name's Hemlock.
Yes, my name is Tere. We even have a slide with the pictures of us, don't we?
We do.
Yes, hello and welcome to everybody. The 2026 year ahead forecast of the Courageous Heart that we've called Spark in the Dark this year. So this is our annual forecast of what's to come in 2026. There's a lot of dynamic, amazing, stellar things happening, and we're excited to share some of that with you today. Tara, do you want to maybe do the
Yeah.
about us?
Yes. So, Starsdance Mystery School, I believe, began in 2020. Aurora and I
Mhm.
began it together. And this is a school for people who are oriented towards astrology in a magical way, a spiritual way. We're also queer. We And we're very welcoming of many points of view in astrology. And so you're going to see people who practice modern, Vedic, traditional, and all kinds of astrology. And it's a community. So we get to share our ideas with each other. And you find us on Patreon, Starsdance Mystery School, where you'll learn a little bit more about how to join us. We do have a Discord server where lots of conversation and learning happens. Yeah, anything else you'd like to say, Hemlock or Aurora? Hemlock is now co-facilitating Star Sense Mystery School with me, and Aurora is a guest tonight and really is part of our school.
Having me.
Yes. Anything
Yeah,
else you
Aurora is definitely
both
part
would
of the
like to
fabric of our school. I'll just say that we're always welcoming new students, and our current course offering, which is a bit self-paced, it's where we're doing aspects. We're really digging into really important aspects within astrology, what they mean, how to work with them, what even is these lines and words. Um, so it's been really good so far. We just wrapped up Square Month, so I'm headed into another here soon. Rory, you want to say anything?
I think y'all covered it. And just keeping in mind too that it's it really is the cycles of the moon that has been, the core focus of this school.
Yeah, for sure. And this is us. This is us.
This is us. I've been practicing astrology since the 90s. And it's a deeply part of my practice as a witch and my spiritual path through life, and also my path through as an activist and as a world changer. So, yeah, that's who I am. Anything you'd like to say about you personally, Hemlock or Aurora?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh, go
wait,
ahead, Laura.
you're
Go,
second on
Laura.
the
Go,
list. Are
go,
you sure?
All right. Sure, I'll go. I am a newer astrologer. I started practicing in 2020 with the school. And this is where I learned astrology and where I kind of came into my own. Um, in my personal practice, I lean toward Vedic astrology and whole sign as my house system, but really enjoy being astrologically bilingual. So it's always good to hang out with the tropical kids. And Aurora.
Yeah. So my name's Aurora. I've been practicing astrology for probably over 10 years. Definitely learned through Tare's teachings as they've been my mentor for basically the majority of the time that I've called myself an astrologer. These days, focusing more on evolutionary astrology, which is really just sort of like the belief and the practice of like the nodes of the moon being the loudest karma left over from a past life, which is the reason why you have the chart that you have. And it gives you direction as to how to evolve over lifetimes. It gives you very specific guidance with regards to what the baggage is in the medicine. Yeah, happy to be here.
Mm. Oh, thank you for joining me. And so we begin with an acknowledgement of land. And this is core to our practice as witches and as accountable people. Um, and we're all located in the US on Turtle Island. And so we all come from and live in places that have history of colonization and violence and colonization. We come from lands where indigenous people still live and still have rich and vibrant cultures. And we would like to honor those cultures and their beautiful and powerful histories with this land. Where I live, the Dakota people have been living here for many millennia and have deep relationship with the land, with the two rivers, the Mississippi River and the Minnesota River, where they come together is the birthplace of this people. And I honor their elders, I honor their wise ones, and I honor their descendants. And I invite you as listener to also be in relationship with the land where you live and the people who have been indigenous to that land, who have been stewards to that land long before the white settlers came here. And so also we like to begin this presentation with our intention for the year, which is to be sparks in the dark as we tend our courageous hearts. And I'm really interested to hear what Hemlock and Aurora might think about this intention. But to me, it's an honoring of the awareness that there's a lot of fire in the astrology of the year. There is a lot of air in the astrology of the year, and we are in a time where we need to break through darkness, where we need to break through with that light and the air to move courageously and vulnerably into the future. For me, courageous doesn't mean heroic. It means vulnerable. It means hoping and caring and being present as best we can be to the times we live in. And I do believe we are all sparks in that time. And I also want to clarify that I don't think of darkness as a bad thing. So when we say it's a dark time, it is a time where we're not able to see very clearly what's going to happen next. And that in and of itself is a little bit of a challenge as an astrologer when we're peering into the future. I'm thinking about that, and it takes a certain kind of presence with prediction, so that it isn't about knowing everything in advance, but it's how we bring ourselves to the unknown. And I think having a courageous heart is really needed this year. And we'll be talking about the times of the year where we'll need courage and where we need to remember that we're sparks in the dark. Is there anything else about our intention, Hemlock or Aurora, that you would like to say?
Yeah,
I think
oh.
Go.
I was just thinking as you were sharing all of that about darkness not being a bad thing, I was brought back to my art school days and the reminder that like black is actually the combination of all the colors. So for me, darkness is just like the most ripe potential. And I think, but also in acknowledging that like times are dark, times are really challenging, and there's an acknowledgement of that here, I think. While also, keeping in mind that there's so much newness in the coming year. Like there's just ripe, limitless potential because we're ending a lot of really old cycles to go into many, many starting new cycles. And for me, it's all about doing it afraid. So like not trying to not be afraid of it or not acknowledge what it is, but like to do it anyway. To me, that's what it means to be courageous. Courageous. To you, Hemlock.
I'll just agree again. I think that was great. I agree with both of you. For me, this also resonates with the idea of being a lighthouse. So having, that joy and calm and courageous heart to share that shines out as a lighthouse in dark places. Um, so that feels really lovely. The image coming to my head is Samwise whenever he's fighting Shelob in Return of the King, and he grabs the vial of starlight. May you be a light in dark places when all other lights go out. Um, so yeah, that's what Spark in the Dark is being a light in dark places when all other lights go out. Right. I keep going. Our outline for today is we're going to talk, we did a little bit of intro. We're going to move into our main transits and some magic, and then we'll talk about transits by lunar cycle. Our school has been the past few years moving. I mean, it really started as a lunar focused school, but we've really moved into sinking into that cycle even more and more with all of our content and classes that we're producing. We're really trying to sink in with that lunar cycle even more. So we're going to continue to do that this year. Last year we did all of our forecast by the lunar cycle, and we're going to do it again this year because it really fits with our vibe. And here we go.
Yeah, so
Tere, do you want to take this
yeah,
stage?
when I think about the year as like a big tapestry, I think about how the outer planets are weaving together fire and air. There's so much happening in those signs. And the outer planets, which we're going to talk about as we go planet by planet later, are really weaving what we think of as our shared reality. It's a transpersonal shared reality. And our shared reality is going to have a lot of fire. And so we can imagine that kind of heat and action and impulsivity and excitement and creativity, and a lot of air, which we can think of as innovations and concepts and new ideas, new paradigms. So there's a lot of energy when you think about fire and air combining. It can be maybe explosive, maybe exciting, maybe volatile. And so, when I think about in magic, my own magical kind of approach is sometimes we can really lean into what's prevalent. So we just lean into that fire and air and just, dedicate ourselves to fire and air and evoke fire and air in us. And then sometimes, or maybe contrarily, we might want to move away from fire and air and bring some more of the cooling qualities, the water and earth and the grounded qualities into our year, because there's going to be a lot pulling us out of that. And so we get to kind of decide and move from one to the other and kind of feel all the things. But how would you, work with fire and air, magically? I'm really curious what either of you have to say about that.
I think Aurora's taking a bite, so I can go. I got you. I got you. So I think when I think about working with fire and air, it's really about initiating new things. I've been seeing so much lately about the Chinese New Year transition from Year of the Snake to Year of the Horse and how those are so different. And then the numerology of just the year of 2 to 5 being a 9 and 9 being a year of completion and endings, and 2 to 6 is a 1, and that's a year of initiating and beginning, and that feels really synergistic with what's happening in the astrology.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a year where we a little bit of a clean slate, like we always are building off of what's happened before, but with these ingresses becoming permanent, for however long that they're in the sign, they're not retrograding back. They're not doing a little dance over the edge. they're in that sign and going to really sink into that energy for a while. I think that just gives us an opportunity to really sink in. Aurora?
Yeah. So for those, I'm assuming many of the people who are attending this have worked with the elements before, earth, air, fire, water. But just as a reminder that fire and air are um, basically like the energy wands do be energy like hyperactive or active in general. We don't know if it's hyperactive. It depends on how much energy is there. But then also like words and intellect and how we speak to each other. And when we think of those combined, it's a lot of, like just going and trying things. It is saying things impulsively, maybe, or just wanting to jump in, to stand up for something, to say what is needed to be said. And I think with a really pronounced fire and air energy in the coming year, it just really feels like and all of the things that have been, drastically changing, even in the past year, that year the snake that Hemlock referenced, were from all of like the decay and the endings that came at the end of a really long cycle. And we're going to talk about where the planets have been and where they're going into. But like we're coming into everybody in some way, shape, or form is going to have to do something new that they have never done before in some facet of their life. And I think that, just having an awareness of like impulsivity, whether that works for you or not so much, or if that's your tendency or not so much, to maybe lean in and be willing to experiment while also doing our best to sort of ground and take care because there's not a lot of that energy or a lot of like prominent like feeling energy of water too. So just sort of trying to take care of ourselves while also just like doing things totally different in a way that maybe we've never done it before, and seeing what happens.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about how a couple years ago our theme was dawn of a new era, and we're out of dawn. We're into the day.
Morning.
I like how you said we're all
All
going to need to
right.
try new things. And I just want to, before we talk about the notes, I want to say that one of the things that I'm wondering about, we don't have to, it doesn't matter what side you show, but one of the things I'm wondering about is how this spark will feed my activism and how I can meet this world in a new way, a creative way, a way that's inspired by fire and is eager to learn, that's inspired by air. So yeah, I definitely think activism is a big theme of this year, and it's going to show up in a lot of different ways.
And brilliant.
Yeah.
Yep. I think
Yeah.
there's great capacity for like genius energy too, like brand new inventions and ideas and things that fuel that activism and like how we collectively and individually are moving into this new time.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
All right. So we could go next to the nodes.
Yeah.
So the nodes of the moon, I'll just introduce what those are. They're not planets, they're points in space. And around these points in space, there will be eclipses when there's a new moon or a full moon near them. The nodes move through the zodiac. They don't stay in the same place, this place where eclipses happen. And so what's going to happen this year is the nodes are going to change signs. They stay in a pair of signs for 18 months about. And this is a really exciting transition. And I'm really curious to hear what Aurora is thinking about the nodes changing, where they have been. And they are right now is the north node is in Pisces and the south node is in Virgo, and they move backwards. So the north node's about to go into Aquarius and the south node will be in Leo. What do you think that means, Aurora?
I have opinions. I have opinions. So one other thing to share about the nodes, if people aren't familiar. So like the South Node is the karmic baggage. It's the stuff that we're here to heal and to deal with on one end of the spectrum, where The North Node, I should have switched it for the visuals here, but the North Node is basically, it's the direct opposite sign and energy that is the healing medicine. It's basically like the direction that we're headed towards in order to balance out that karmic energy. So we're coming from the South Node, the karmic baggage of Virgo, which is like, meticulous attention to detail, hyper focusing on like what's there, what's real, accounting for resources, like all of those things, and sort of like how granularity isn't actually helpful at this time. What was actually needed to balance out is this like just this letting go of control and just letting things higher outside of your awareness, or even understanding, to sort of like come in and create change instead of trying to maintain and hold the earth energy that is decaying. It's the end of the earth cycle, so it's like it's kind of time for it to compost and be done, and the only way that that can be done successfully is with that Pisces energy of like spirit. And we're shifting from those two signs into the South Node, the baggage, being in Leo, and the North Node being in Aquarius, which is the healing medicine. And I think it's an apt time. I think it's a good time for that, considering all the transits we have. So this is good to sort of set that up. So like the main goals for the next 2 years, we're starting this new nodal cycle, is to sort of kind of get over ourselves. Leo's for better, for worse, no disrespect to any Leos in the room, but they can be very self-oriented. They're really proud of themselves. They're really, and again, we're thinking of like the darker, manifestation there when we're thinking about karma. We're thinking about like, what is the shadow side of this sign? And for Leos, it's being self-oriented. It's being very like needing to be seen, needing to be recognized, and to, be seen in the world. And I think that the healing medicine is to sort of like try to think more collectively, to not take things quite so personally, and knowing that the human experience is personal, but at this time, like thinking more like, well, it's for the betterment of all of us. Like I might not be able to have what I want or to be seen doing all the fabulous things that I'm doing, but at the end of the day, like it's about all of us, and we're all doing our best, and we need to think about each other and what it means to be one of many, as opposed to like the only one. So
yeah, and I'm also noticing this is another fire air piece of the year, that Aquarius is an air sign and Leo is a fire sign. And I tend to think of it's not good and bad, so South Node's not the bad guy, but it is like, how do we reintegrate these energies? I think about Leo being the self and Aquarius being the collective. And so and in activism especially, how do we move collectively with each individual being creative, to change the world? So I'm looking forward to some things like that. You can see the list of the dates of the eclipses. We have 2 eclipse seasons a year usually, and that the first is in February and March, and then the second is in August. And we get into those new signs of Aquarius right away in February, but the nodes won't actually change until July. So we get a preview of how the nodes are going to change our focus and direction, but we're going to really start out with some Aquarian energy, and in an unexpected way, because eclipses can be pretty unexpected. Do you have any thoughts about the nodes? I noticed you were drawing pretty pictures.
I was just annotating a little bit of what Aurora was saying, so folks could see maybe. I don't have anything to add. You guys are great.
Yeah.
I'm ready to talk about other planets.
Ideas about magic during eclipse season, and it is a very important time to like chill out on magic. Although I think magic can also be self-awareness, and there's plenty of time to reflect and become more aware of things during eclipses. But yeah, it's a hard time to actually try to manifest anything because it's a very volatile period of time.
Yeah, in the Vedic tradition of astrology, I work in. Um, the eclipses are seen as times of purification. So what we do during eclipses and what is happening to the sun and moon as entities during eclipses is purification. And in my tradition, we liken it to them using the restroom. We don't want to look at them because that would be rude. They're doing bathroom time. Um, so my practice with eclipses is to stay inside. It's a great time to meditate. It's a great time to do cleansing practices. But your mileage may vary if you do other things.
Mhm. Mhm. Right.
All right, are we ready for the next
Yeah.
planet?
What's next?
All right, let's talk about our guy Pluto.
Oh, so Pluto is the planet, and I think of the planets as gods of the underworld, of our deep, deep selves. And in that deep place, it can be where we have fear and trauma, but also where we have an ability to reclaim power. And so it's a rejuvenating kind of a planet that asks us to surrender and transform in order to be rejuvenated. So it's an intense energy, this Pluto. Yeah, and Pluto is in Aquarius now. Has been it's been going in and out of Aquarius and Capricorn, and then last year it was fully in Aquarius, and now it's going to be
Fully in Aquarius.
yeah, it's going to be
Now
traveling
it's
all
just
the way to
there.
5 degrees of Aquarius this year. So anyone with planets at the early degrees of fixed signs are going to have a Pluto transit. What do you think about Pluto and Aquarius, Aurora?
So another facet of my practice is using the decans, which is basically just the process of breaking the 12 zodiac signs into 36, but like keeping and maintaining the integrity and the scope of each one. So Aries 1, Aries 2, Aries 3, Taurus 1, Taurus 2, Taurus 3, and it just allows you to get more specific with the archetypes. And so with us, with Pluto moving very slowly, but finally to 5 degrees, it means we're about halfway through during this year the first decan, which I've heard referred to by Austin Coppock as the exile, which like again is Pluto sort of shows the underbelly and the death and the decay of certain things in order for it to be healed. It's sort of like letting the wound open in order for it to heal properly. Um, it it has coincided very directly with a lot of the immigration issues that have been happening and
Mhm.
all of the challenges and the devastation and the absolutely disgusting and gruesome things that is happening to people who are aliens. It's another facet of Aquarius is just being so different or not from here. That exile-y energy. These streams, I'm trying to speak in archetypes, not to, I'll be
Mhm.
disrespectful to people, but just sort of illustrate the energy. And I think it really, the timing, it very much coincides with all of the things that we see happening within our communities and the real the real change that is needed and the real ugliness that needs to be healed. So we're going to be about halfway through. We're still got some time in this sign of this energy, but just thinking about when it comes to transformation and things that are just like really needing to be healed and helping others to heal. Just thinking about how it feels to be alone, to be the only one, and to be you know feeling different or identifying other people as different from me. But then also being able to recognize that and it is in this space of being by myself that I can eventually, when we get to Aquarius too, um, I can start to hear things, sense things, experience things through my own unique lens that I wouldn't have been able to if I had been surrounded by lots of people trying to make me like them or to fit in, really. So that's what I think about.
Hmm. Any thoughts on Pluto, Hemlock?
I'm feeling into Pluto as power and our relationship with power. Um, and what we've agreed on as a collective, right? Like society works because we all have like shared reality and shared norms. Whether or not we all agree with each other is doesn't actually matter because we've built society's been built a certain way, which is Aquarius, right? Aquarius is community and is groups of people and is the container of community in society. And Pluto is in there, like kind of kicking tires and being like, your tires are flat, buddy. um, so I think it's giving us opportunities to find the weak points um, in our shared agreements about what is power and who has power and all of those things. So Pluto the tire kicker here in Aquarius, in the car lot of our society.
Yes. Well, Aquarius is the collective sign. And I think about, and Pluto's going to be in this sign until 2040 something, I believe, a long
In
time.
19 more years, that's what
Yeah.
matters.
And so we have a long time to learn about how Pluto is going to reorient our shared power. The last time Pluto was in Aquarius was when the Constitution of the United States was being written. So we know that this can sometimes not be a perfect collective power, but we are rethinking what collective power is right now. And we have an opportunity in our imagining of the world to come up with even a better agreement
Yeah.
around power and freedom.
Yeah.
So that's what I hope happens. What about the
Me
next one?
too. We have Neptune next.
Neptune. Yes. So Neptune is going into Aries this year for the next 13 to 14 years. And last year it dipped into Aries for a little bit and then came back into Pisces, and it's currently in the last degree of Pisces. Neptune is the god of the ocean, dissolving illusion and leading us into fantasy, imagination, addiction, but also the transcendence or the feeling of union with other people. I, you know, letting go of ego. So it's a very powerful, powerful planet. What do you think about Neptune being in Pisces and going into Aries, Aurora?
Well, yeah, so and it feels important to say that there's another important planet that's going to be going into Aries from Pisces also. So like some of what I'm saying here will apply to,
Mm-hmm.
Neptune, which I've also heard Neptune referred to as like the higher octave of Venus, where like Venus is all about like what's important to us, what we value, what we find beautiful, but Neptune is like, but at a higher level, like, how like do I dream about this? How do I like where do I find my mind going to? Like, the big nebulousness that is the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like even in that description it was very Neptunian. It's like, well, what does this even mean? Who knows? But as it goes from Pisces into Aries, basically that last decan of Pisces 3 is all about like redemption. It's like, and from the entire cycle, I have had like cosmic union. I have experienced the oneness with the universe and what it means to actually connect with things, everything, everywhere at once. And now I'm coming back to Earth. I'm preparing to be reborn for the purposes of doing better next time, to integrate this into whatever comes next. And I've thought a lot about this energy because Neptune actually dipped briefly into Aries for a section of the year. And so because Aries is an intense sign, it's the newborn baby of the zodiac. It's the first step. I've been thinking about this for a while and about how like it really like the Aries one, the very, 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 very first energy of the whole zodiac is all about like, and now everything is different. And now there's an explosion. Like it's a very like enormous, huge change that like the only way that like you could really enter into the human experience is just by like starting it off with a bang and breaching, you know, birthing to actually to have things be so completely different and like what it to be birthed into like a completely new and unfamiliar domain, how that impacts you, what you find yourself doing, what your instincts are, you know, and it's almost like you forget sort of that like, oh, and I have all these plans coming from Pisces spiritual redemption, but like now I'm just like in it. Like how do I switch from that like and I have it all figured out to like and now everything is changing and I have no idea what's going on, but like just rolling with it and trusting like the human body and experience and instincts to like help you to survive and to, you know, make sure that at the end, like even though everything might be totally foreign, that you're going to get through it and that you're strong enough and resilient enough to make it.
Hmm. What do you think about Neptune? Hemlock?
Yeah, I think I love what Aurora said. I love what you said. What I'll add is that Neptune can sometimes be seen like as a kind of like a foggy opaqueness, like makes things kind of wibbly wobbly. Um, like it's so Neptune loves being in the energy of Pisces and like that as a modern ruler of Pisces. And so that very like spiritual, like woo-woo-ness it brings will be thrust. Oh man, I know what the feeling is. It is being at witch camp for a week
Mhm.
and then stopping at the gas station and being like, oh God, the world exists outside of witch camp. And I think that's a little bit of Neptune and Aries will be a little bit of like, I've been vibing, but oh no. Um, and what does it mean to carry that, like the beauty and the lessons learned of 13 years in Pisces and having all that knowledge, you have all that, you carry all that with you, and being able to use that to exist in the world that is Neptune and Aries. And what is that Aries energy? And how can you transmute that for yourself? That's where I'm at.
Nice. The one thought I want to add is that I hope, because Aries is an individualistic sign, it can very much be about the hero and I'm doing it alone. And Neptune being so much about dissolving those barriers between us and being in the egoist state, that we can have a new orientation towards heroism, that we
Mm,
can also think of ourselves as collective heroes, like um, and really reach towards each other in solidarity and allyship as we have to fight some battles this year because Aries is strong energy this year.
yeah. Well,
Rooting
and I think
for
too, this is where we get to lean on what Pluto can offer us in
yes.
Aquarius.
And the last time
Like
Neptune
what?
in Aries was during the Civil War. So that's something to think about. All right.
We ready for the next planet? Oh, come on. Nope, I went too far. Oh God.
Yeah.
Not you yet. There we go.
Yep.
You just didn't want to be talked about.
Yes. Well, Uranus is the planet of change. Some would say chaos, disruption. It is not a controllable entity, and it's a lightning bolt of sometimes inspiration, sometimes disruption. So it's going to go into a new sign. It changes sign every 7 to 8 years. And last year, Uranus dipped into Gemini, and next year it's going to be in Gemini for the next 8 years. And so this is a huge, big change in where we are centering are lightning bolts? Where are the lightning bolts coming from? And what are they awakening? What is the awakening that we are having? And how will Gemini be a part of that awakening? So I'm curious what you think about that, Aurora.
Yeah, so there's this old Norse rune or term known as Nothes, which sort of reminds me, I've heard it referred to as, the energy of innovation. And I always think of Uranus as like and this is how we like electrify what is in order to like level up in ways that we need, right? And so and the visual is like two lines going like this. And the thought is that it's like, this friction energy. It's like, it's like two sticks rubbing together to make a fire. And it's like, it is just, once there's enough friction, that's when the fire actually, thank you. That's exactly what Nazis looks like. And so when I think of innovation and I hear this rune referred to as, the concept of innovation and transferring that to Neptune and what Neptune is about, I just think about need fire and about how like and it's in an air sign too. So it's like, mentally like communication, can be technology, it's like, there's such great need and so much friction happening with like all of these like technological advancements, people trying to experiment with AI, like AI trying to be taken off and jammed into things. And we're like, and there's like a need, but then this other people has need. And there's just so much friction happening that like the only thing that can come next is innovation because there is such a great need colliding with other need. So thinking about Gemini, I also think of genius energy. And the last time we had somebody who like, I can't even really think honestly, like who was the last genius of our generation, like when it comes to like science or technology or even just inventing things, right? Like I just don't, it's been a while, I feel like, since we've had really pronounced figures. And I think that Uranus could definitely bring us some of that energy, some of that, some of those like really like mad scientists that like really help usher us, forward when it comes to thought and air energy.
I mean, I think we have had those people. The issue is that they've been ignored, like science has been ignored, and perhaps it is the opportunity for science to have its rightful place again. Like the anti-intellectualism of it all maybe can go away because I can think of
Intellectual energy, big
brilliant
time.
people.
Yep.
Right. Like there are brilliant people. We had a COVID vaccine in 9 months, right? And that was after years of people working on mRNA work. But like the scientific community came together to make that vaccine happen. And there have been brilliant strides in, like thinking about like the James Webb telescope. And like just because we don't have science communicators in your TikTok feed, you collectively, not necessarily you, Aurora, doesn't mean that they're not there doing amazing work. And I hope that Uranus can maybe unveil here in Gemini, can unveil some of their stuff in some really great ways. Did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Well,
Aurora.
Oh no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have to say that I thought you were going to, Hemlock, talk about the tech bros because they are,
Oh, I mean, I was responding. I mean, the tech bros are absolutely.
I mean, they're real and they're a big
I don't want to talk
right?
about them
They're a
actually.
big problem. That's the side of
Yeah.
innovative technology that maybe we need to be
Yeah.
like rethinking and using Uranus as a
Yeah.
lightning bolt to think differently and this is a very real impact in our world. I want to say the word danger,
Yeah.
surveillance, and the way we're
Mm.
losing our autonomies through AI. I mean, we're moving so quickly, and Uranus moves quickly, and air signs move quickly, and fire signs move
It
quickly.
has very Jurassic Park energy.
It's just, it's like the magic of all this quickness sometimes might be to go back into Earth, go back into
Mhm.
But then also there are these moments this year where we're weaving through really favorable transits Saturn is going to sextile Uranus. Neptune's going to sextile Uranus. Pluto is going to have this ongoing trine to Uranus. These sextiles and trines are encouraging, flowing sparks in the dark. So we have these opportunities when these planets are weaving their magic to lean in, but with our own values. We don't have to just surrender the world
Yeah.
to a vision that isn't whole, that isn't
Yeah.
respectful of life and humanity. I think this is a huge place where we're going to have to make our choices and stand up for our choices. But
Yeah.
there's
Yeah, I have
positivity this year.
I have one more thing to add to that, because I think that as somebody who works in technology and is doing my very best to like advocate for accessibility and usability and making sure that like as far as like access, like that everybody can use it, right? At least to the best of our ability. And I think that the real ripe spot, again, in the disruptive element of this is like, yeah, that the tech bros could and are in a lot of ways like ruining a lot of technology and making it unusable and not actually useful, and it's only serving some people. But like the real benefit here is that like it is actually like it is more accessible. Like, I mean, granted, you have to have a device, and there is some level of monetary, or at least, having things in order to contribute or to benefit. But at the same time, like, they shouldn't be allowed to have it all. I think that this ushers the opportunity for people to participate, for people to try it out, to have it work for them, to contribute back to the models, and actually like really reap the benefits in ways that like you don't have to pay to play, at least not as much. And I think that like there can be like radicalism and like really dynamic like changes and like plot twists that come because people who may or may not have the money to like build an app from scratch, they can use ChatGPT to manifest an idea, or contribute to open source, which is a free community of code. And I think that like radicalism and radical ideas and discoveries and innovation are really possible. And it is my hope that more people can benefit from it and use it than like just again like letting the people with all of the money and the resources just have it.
Mm-hmm. I think the trines to Pluto is an opportunity for that, right? So let's feed that energy. Yes. I am going to just note that the last time Uranus was in Gemini was during World War II. So there's also that. Um, yeah. Let's move on. We've talked
All
about
right.
the
Maybe here we go.
planets, and now we get to Saturn, who is a part of our visible solar system. Saturn is the planetary god of material matter, responsibility, accountability, and achievement. Saturn asks us to work hard and sometimes asks us to let go of things or reduce things, contract, and get solid around things. So we also have Saturn moving into Aries this year. It dipped into Aries last year, and now it's going to be fully in Aries for 2 years. So what do you think about this, especially Saturn joining up with Neptune in Aries, Aurora?
Yeah, it's a lot of the same flavors what I mentioned for Neptune, because that's another thing that's definitely worth knowing, is that this is going to be at the very beginning of the year. I think it's in February. Saturn and Neptune are going to be conjunct at the very, very, not even the first degree, at the 0 degree mark. They are both coming together. So it's like where Neptune wants us to dream and dissolve and just sort of melt into, our dreams. Saturn is like boundaries, reality checks, can be like milestones and rewarding hard work. So I think there's going to be a lot of like weird duality where like we're going to want to dissolve, but then Saturn's going to demand that we like ship up, like really kind of try to do better. Yeah, I think it's going to be like really being confronted with brand new energy, like not even like an hour into like, the first day at, a new job or having a child or, doing something scary that you've never done before. It's like not even like the first hour of like something you've absolutely never experienced. It's the first second. It's like second you walk in the door. It's the second that the breach happens. It's happening at that very, very, very beginning mark, and I'm really curious to see how that duality and that paradox of again like dissolve, but like like real reality checks and boundaries. Yeah, how that's going to shake out.
Yep. It's very poignant, the 0 degrees of Aries. It's called the world degree. I think of 0 degrees of the cardinal signs as a crossroads, and Aries is sort of like the power of choice. How do we meet this moment with such a new ability to begin things, as you say, Aurora? Do you have any thoughts about Saturn and Aries and also Neptune and Saturn and Aries together? Hemlock.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure it was me. I am feeling like I'm really glad that Saturn is leaving Pisces. I am looking forward to the great boundary maker, not feeling like it's making boundaries with mud.
Like a
Um,
puddle. Oh,
at best mud. Um, so I'm looking forward to, um, Saturn playing with fire a little bit, which is fine. Um, maybe not the happiest spot for Saturn, but it certainly feels better than Mud Town. I'm interested to see. We've had Saturn Neptune conjunctions already. We've experienced them. I'm interested to see how this next one goes with them at the 0 degree. I think that will set the tone in many ways for what their co-presence will look like over the next 2.5 years while Saturn hangs out and transits through Aries. And then, we'll enjoy them not being co-present in Aries in 2.5 years. Um, it's been a long co-presence.
Yeah.
And it feels a little bit like Saturn's trying to shake a guy and he's just not letting go. Um, so yeah, that's where I'm at with Saturn. And
yeah, and I think so. Sorry, just one last thing that I was reminded when you were sharing Hemlock. One thing that Stephen Forrest said in a blog post that he did when Saturn first entered Pisces, and that he said that if you start, this is a great time that if you don't have a spiritual practice or if there's something like meditation, which is exactly what it was for me. If you start that and you're willing to commit to whatever that spiritual thing is, that like Saturn will show you at the end of the cycle, which we're at basically right now, of like you can reap benefits from that like spiritual commitment and have that
Mhm.
like spiritual growth being rewarded, after the cycle, which for me was actually Vedic meditation. That's around the time that I started. And through that commitment of meditating every day, like I have reached milestones. It has like lessened my anxiety and my cortisol levels, and from there like I am seeing benefits. So like while it's been a lot of mud, like depending on how you channel like that spiritual, you know,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. As someone who also learned to meditate, and do Vedic meditation daily,
Mhm.
like that non-negotiable of it, of that Saturn being non-negotiable about the Piscean, spiritual thing, absolute reaping the benefits 20-fold.
Mhm.
that was really true for
Yeah.
me. Yep.
So I imagine,
But I think that if you don't have that spiritual practice, that then if you didn't do the thing where you figured out the thing that was going to be non-negotiable, then your Saturn and Pisces experience was, oh Jesus, how am I going to build walls with mud?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's just my thought, is like there are ways you can work with the energy, but if you're not, you're gonna have a you're gonna have a moment.
mhm.
A reward or a reality check. or both maybe.
Both.
So Saturn gives us hard work to do, and it isn't easy work. But I think about the courageous heart because when I think
Hmm.
about Aries, I think about courage. Sometimes a courage that doesn't always succeed, sometimes a courage that doesn't feel confident. Earlier tonight, you said, Aurora, doing it afraid. That's one of my keywords for Aries. And so, what can we commit to in the next 2 years that we want to see the ripening of around our own willingness to risk, our own willingness to begin and fail and begin again, our willingness to be that innocent attempter, darer, fool, to just go into the fray. And I think, I'm going to just keep adding in that I hope that Neptune's influence is that we don't have to do it alone, that we can let go of that piece of the Aries story. And that's
Love
what I'm
that.
working on.
Yeah, I love
And
that
I think
too.
that's what Saturn and Pisces really did help us learn. We're not doing this alone. We're so intimately connected, energetically, empathically, compassionately, and those are strengths. So that's important.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Beautiful.
yeah. Well, then we go to our next planet,
It's
Chiron.
not a planet.
Not a planet, but
We have an
Looks like
asteroid.
a chicken nugget at the bottom.
we call things planets that are not planets, like the sun and moon and Chiron.
That's fair.
Chiron is a strange object that is a little bit asteroid and a little bit comet, and that is there's several of these bodies in space out between Saturn and Uranus, and they're called the centaurs. And Chiron was the centaur of Greek myth who was the wisest, the bringer of medicine and healing, and the teacher of martial arts and how to be a warrior. So Chiron stays in a sign for a really long time. And it has a very elliptical orbit. So sometimes it's in a sign shorter than other times. It's been in Aries since 20. I
2018.
see that Chiron is misspelled and it's annoying
I
me.
like Fjord.
Beyond that, it's been in Aries since 2018 and it's going to go into Taurus. So, and then it's going to go back into Aries. So it's just in Taurus for a very short amount of time. But this is a big deal. And Chiron is the wounded healer. So not only representing medicine and warriorship, but also how we carry our wounds and make them sacred. So I am really curious about what we might think about Chiron going into Taurus. Do you have any ideas about that, Aurora, or what it's meant while it's been in Aries for so long?
Yeah, I mean, and I know that there's like something with the orbit where it tends to hang out longer in Aries. For me, it's just been a lot of like, am I good enough? Like, when I try, and go for things, like it doesn't always work out, and like, it's a lot of worthiness issues, I think, for me with like Chiron and Aries, which has been a lot of like just kind of like just like poking at like the wounds of like feeling like, I have a right to be here and I'm good enough and all of that. And I think that as we move into Taurus, I mean, it's going to be a huge vibe shift. The first decan of Taurus is all about kind of cleaning up the yard and the mess that Aries made and all of its experimentation and sort of trying to like, take out the stuff that's not helping, but also like, planting the seeds and getting the fields ready to plant, flowers or, whatever it is that you're planting. And so I think, it's going to be like shifting from like a really like, sort of like an energy dynamic of just like, a fire wound around like an earth wound, which I think is going to unfortunately probably be some resources and sort of being like, oh God, like know, the planet is a mess and like these things are dying and like how do we clean it but also nurture it but also like plan for the future while also like doing the best with what we have. I think it could be food, it could be, you know, monetary banking resources, like all of the physical stuff, you know, of the earthly experience. I think it's going to be maybe I think it's going to be, you know, tough for those of us who like having those things and having things operate in functional ways. I just think it's going to hurt. I think in just the flavor of the energy because how long has it been
Since
in
2018.
2018.
yeah. So like it's like 8 years. That's like, you know, I think it's just going to be it'll be much, much different. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think about actually more about less about what it's going to be like and a little bit like how are we wrapping up or what have we actually learned from its journey through Aries. And a lot about Aries is about self-identity and identity. Just who am I? And I have been tracking Chiron in Aries as the experience of being trans is experience of it's not safe to be who I am. And my hope for magic in the end of this period where we learn about Chiron and Aries as we learn that someone being who they are is not a threat. Yeah. And how precious trans people are to show us that. That's another kind of Aries courage that we could all learn from. And you got any thoughts about Chiron, Hemlock?
Yeah, I've been thinking about like the idea of Aries and individualism
Mm-hmm.
and Chiron revealing the wounds that like rugged individualism gives us, and how Taurus feels like an opportunity to um, you know, move into what community a little bit. I know it's not necessarily a communal sign, but it is a relational sign. And so I think the tone shift might be around, you know, like how do I move, you know, what are my wounds in relation with other people and with resources and things, right? Like Taurus is associated with the second house and siblings and close family. So like I think there's a little bit of it's less about the individual wounding and a little bit more about interpersonal community, rather than like big community society. Um, yeah, that's what I'm feeling. I haven't mentioned this yet, but like it's important for me as somebody who's sitting with all of these is to think about what houses these transits are happening in, which is not the topic of today's discussion by any means, but it's worth noting that looking at these transits in your against your own chart is really important, especially with ones like Chiron, and as we're heading into these personal planets, that we're going to feel these much more personally in our personal charts and in our houses of our personal charts.
Thanks for saying that. That's
Just
true.
really, really quickly for this group, I'm loving that we're going that deep into these ingresses. I think arguably those ingresses that we've been talking about are the most important things that are happening
Yeah.
in 2026. So I'm glad that we've spent time on them. But just as a time check, it's 10 after
Yeah,
7 and just we've we've got month to month to go by.
I
So
know.
I just wanted
I
to
think
remind us.
I think our next few, maybe we give Jupiter a little kind of the same treatment, and then we kind of buzz through the rest of these inner planets. What are our thoughts here? Just to give
Yeah,
them some justice, and then we can move into month to
there's a,
month.
I want to talk about yeah, Jupiter is going into Leo, a fire sign. So it's been in Cancer. So it'll be in June that it goes into Leo. And so Jupiter is about faith, expansiveness, the belief our beliefs, and it brings an elevation and an expansion. So we're going from an expansion through Cancer, which where Jupiter is so-called exalted, into Leo, which is it doesn't have a particular dignity in Leo, but it does emphasize that Leo sense of nobility, generosity, creativity. So what do you think that you want to say briefly about Jupiter going into Leo?
I think that it so like I understand that like maybe Jupiter does better in Cancer, but I would think that Jupiter would be pretty happy in Leo too. It's a really like fun, spunky energy, I think. Really dynamic, really bold. So I think we can expect like a lot of boldness when Jupiter's in this sign. But something that I also want to point out, because we were talking about the axis of the nodes, right? Like the baggage that we're coming into is this Leo of like me being seen, like I'm so bold, you know, and the medicine is actually the opposite sign. So as we have Jupiter in the sign, and they will become conjunct at I think towards the end of the year, maybe, or maybe it's next year. But there will be that conjunction of like, you know, Jupiter is going to like really add emphasis to like what we need to heal about, you know, Leo energy at this time. I think it's probably going to be like, I think of it as like a caricature. It's going to be like a metaphor of itself. It's just going to like be so over the top and cliche that like it's going to be unmistakable with like, oh yeah, we've got to work on that.
February 27, the nodes and Jupiter will do their thing.
Of 2027.
2027.
Mhm. Right.
I knew it was like close, but it's so
Got the
we've got the
whole
whole
year.
year to think about it
Yeah.
before Jupiter is like, and I'm going to make it very large.
Yeah.
One thing that will happen is
Yeah.
Jupiter will oppose Pluto
Is what?
in July, and that's a big one. What were you
Yeah.
going to say? Were you going to talk about that?
That
Mhm.
I was just going to say that that's kind of top of mind for me is that the Pluto opposition first of that, which is one of my big months of just kind of like, oh boy, this is going to be something.
July is dynamic.
I will, yeah. I'll just say that, you know, I love Jupiter. I think it's a fantastic planet. And I, as a Leo sun, am excited to have the house of my sun kind of glowing with bigness. I think it'll be really lovely.
I think Leos will enjoy this. Yeah,
I agree.
I agree. Yeah.
We love being visited by royalty. It's going to be wonderful. The king of the planets. All right. Let's
That's
talk
right.
briefly about
Jupiter's such like a hype
Mars.
planet.
Oh, he really is. He's fantastic.
So Mars is the planet of action, will, warriorship, uh, the fight. It's a hot planet, and it's a planet that can be problematic unless it's given a really good job to do. Because it is associated with violence and it is associated with frustration. So, you know, I will just note that we're not having a Mars retrograde this year. That happens every 2 years. So that's a particularly intense Mars transit. But we do have some Mars hotspots that are coming up. And specifically, I would say when Mars is going to have an aspect to Pluto, Uranus, especially. We just recently had a Mars square Neptune. That was a pretty intense experience. So that's coming up this year too. So what do you think, like, as you think about Mars kicking off the hot spots of, you know, all the outer planets that we talked about, Mars is going to have some kind of activating transit with all of those planets. What might that be like? Any thoughts about that?
I don't know. I've really gone deep there, so I'm willing to pass on this one.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think for me, just thinking about these Mars aspects is that they're always a little, in my experience, Mars aspects have always brought a little or almost erratic energy, a little bit of like um Okay, so in geomancy, there's this figure called Puer, and it's like a this knight, this young knight rushing forward, and it's a little bit of like shoot first, ask questions later energy. Um, and so I'm interested to see how these are going to play out in the next year. And I'm really excited that we're not getting a Mars retrograde this year, even though we will be in shadow, um, because it's gonna be another hot one. I look forward to Mars being in a cooler sign for a retrograde, personally.
So, one of the things
Um,
I would like to encourage people who are watching this is to join our mystery school and get a monthly forecast, because there's no way we can go through every transit or every like hot moment. But my
mhm,
intention with the forecast I write is to put it in context of an intention, and a magical intention or a spiritual intention. And what can we hold? How do we meet these moments? And Mars is going to create some moments this year. Um, and I think it's worth paying attention to and thinking about how we want to intentionally carry our own energy during those times. So that's one of the things I want to say about Mars.
nice.
hmm
And let's talk about Venus, who
Yeah,
does have a retrograde this year.
Venus does go retrograde, which is amazing. Then Venus goes retrograde every year. So Venus is the planet of love, the planet of culture, beauty, justice. I think Venus is the planet of gender. So, yeah, so all the kinds of things we can think about with gender. And yeah, and justice. So, what is happening is that Venus is going to retrograde through two signs, Libra and Scorpio, which are really interesting because Venus rules Libra and is in detriment in Scorpio. So Venus was going to wear a lot of different costumes during this retrograde. What do you think about this period? During this time, there's going to be some transits that happen more than once. Um, uh, let's see, Venus is going to square Mars, Venus is going to square Pluto. So there's some really interesting kind of things to look forward to with this Venus retrograde, which happens, the shadow begins in August and then doesn't end until December. So we have a long period of time where we're going to be really in the Venusian stew of things. What do you think about retrogrades? What do you look for, Aurora, when you see a Venus retrograde?
So Venus rules my chart
Mm-hmm.
and is conjunct my sun.
Mm-hmm.
So Venus, like when I think of like Venus retrogrades, like to me, it's like the color and the flavor just drains out of everything. It becomes really drab and like I remember we were doing the Venus retrograde challenge a couple of years ago, and it was like all of my like Instagram was like just black and white photos because it's just like to me it's like that like inspiration and flavor and artistry is just sort of like really lackluster. And I think what's really interesting here, because I'm very sensitive at that first second of Scorpio, this is going to be directly hitting my chart. So I do remember this transit pretty specifically. And I think it's going to be a lot of like, because Scorpio, that very first decan is all about like feral desire and instinct and sexuality and like tearing into piece of steak. Sorry for vegans, vegetarians, but it's like a visceral, like human need to like, satisfy our senses. And I think with Venus being there, it's just going to be like totally sucked out. And it's going to be like things don't really like feel good. Like
Mm,
sex isn't even really all that great. And I think that that could really, when it comes to our relationships, be like, well, if there's no desire, like in my, you know, personal, like, romantic relationships, like, what are they like when that's gone? But then you're going to get, as it ushers, it goes back into Libra, where it does particularly well, but then again is still retrograde. It's like, well, and can we like work it out? Can we talk about it? Like,
mhm.
is it not easy to do? I think it's going to give everybody, when it comes to like how we relate to one another and those two, like again, the signs as we go through them, it's going to give us like a lot of lackluster interaction with people and basically helping us discern the substance of our relationships and how we work through dry spells as well as like when we're not able to like see eye to eye when it comes to our different experiences and things not being as flavorful as maybe they once were.
Mhm. Hmm, okay.
I'm gonna pass because Aurora did such a good job on that, and I want to honor our time.
Well, I like how Venus gets mad, and I like how Venus gets mad in both Libra and Scorpio in different ways for different reasons. I think it's a good time to let our rage out.
Go to a rage room. Go to a rage room with your friend.
That's
Why am
what
I not
I'm
getting
looking forward
text?
to.
Why can we not work it out? Why can't we talk this out? It's not good.
Because there's a lot of injustice in the world, and we can't just let it slide.
And we're not going to be able to hold it all together. That's Libra 3, which it'll be going
Yeah.
through. It's like, and as we're like having, we all have all these contracts and agreements and things that we've like agreed upon, but like, we're trying to hold it all together. Like Venus being wonky here is like, and we can't hold it
Yeah.
all together. Like there has to be a breaking point, and we can get mad about it. That is, anger is the most potent catalyst.
Which I think is interesting, just given that that does not go direct until after midterm elections.
The election. I was
So
just going to say
a
we have a Venus retrograde
moment in time.
in during this election. Hopefully, there will be an election. Okay, so and then Mercury, our dear friend, Mercury retrograde. Mercury tends to retrograde in the same element in the year. It might be just solidly in that element, or it might be going between elements. But each time it retrogrades, it will be going in the same element or between the same two elements. This year, it's going to retrograde through water signs. And that is very different. I mean, you may have picked up on so much air, so much fire. And here we have Mercury weaving in, like remembering your emotional intelligence. And maybe
Yes.
you've jumped to some conclusions that you need to come back through your feelings and feel again. And yeah, I think it's a good counterpoint to the rest of the year.
Yeah. I
Anything?
think you hit the nail on the head that like these Mercury retrogrades are actually boons to, you know, quench some of that air and fire energy.
Yeah, yeah.
Or anything else?
It's just going to be real, all focal points on being able to talk, articulate, and understand your feelings. So again, like me, Mercury being like, communication, how we, our symbol making muscle. It's how we understand and perceive the world, and like how, it's going to be probably a little murky when it comes to how we're feeling emotionally. So just again, it's like everything is changing, and then we shouldn't take everything so personally. It's still really important to be authentic in our emotions and being able to identify where we're feeling so that we're not, if we are angry and we are lashing out, we're doing it at the source that actually deserves it, as opposed to just
Mm.
lashing out because we're confused and not able to actually like know what's happening in our feelings.
Yeah, so Mercury will be retrograde during the election as well. Mercury and Venus are going to overlap and be retrograde at the same time. So that's interesting.
And their shadow ends almost at the same time too, December
Mhm.
15th and
Yes,
then December
they're
18th.
very intertwined.
Uh,
And it makes me feel like the
yeah,
election is just going to be like so like poorly. Like you think like even if you're trying to be sneaky, I just feel like it's going to be so poorly executed that like whatever wonkiness, and it's going to make people feel stuff, and you're going to see people being reactive. Probably
yeah,
won't know the results again if we even go through the
yeah.
dance of it. I just think it's going to be like just really like comically bad when it comes to like at least how it's conducted, or at least the
Yeah.
visage and the way that we are told to
It'll be
understand.
astrology good though. So
Yeah, again, I love a caricature. So
all right. Let's talk about transits by lunar cycle.
Yeah.
We have about 35 minutes left, so we won't spend a ton of time. You were emailed a packet, which I also printed out for myself. that you can take notes on, which, maybe you've already done, maybe you'll do on a rewatch. But the packet has our most potent transits listed on these calendar pages. So those are ingresses, the full moon, the new moon, um, the lunation, so our crescent, first quarter gibbous, disseminating and balsamic and last quarter moons. If something is stationing, retrograde, or direct, and then any notable aspects, which are in this pink color. So we have in this one Jupiter sextile Uranus. Um, yeah, so we'll briefly, just do this, and then let's talk about our keywords for this Capricorn lunar cycle.
Mhm. Well, the new moon begins on the January 18th, the first new moon of this year. And it will be our Capricorn new moon. Yes, this is when we begin our year of weaving the air signs and fire
Mhm.
signs. It's like I think one of the most powerful transits of this lunar cycle is probably going to be Mars in Aquarius conjunct Pluto. We'll notice that energy. We'll notice that energy, and it will be a time where we kind of like pay attention to issues around power. And so we've got uh, keywords like new worlds born, engaging power, envisioning the future, re-exploring your relationship with power, shining light on structure, mirror driving, and beginning. When you're thinking about this lunar cycle, Capricorn, what are you thinking about, Aurora, when we're have Saturn entering Aries, we have Neptune entering Aries, and that powerful Mars Pluto conjunction? What do you think it'll be like?
Yeah, I think, with all of that going on, I really just sort of try to ground myself again in like the new moon's opportunity to plant the seed and the full moon's opportunity to reap the benefits, right? So
Mhm.
if I were to sort of like try to sum up the new moon and like the opportunity to plant the seeds with it being at Capricorn 3, the very end of Capricorn, it's going to be like planting a seed of legacy and like, like what it is you do with the abundance that you've earned and sort of being able to plant seeds around maybe either that coming to fruition during the full moon, which is actually Leo 2 is all about success. It's Six of Wands energy. It's like, and I am seeing being victorious. This is definitely a really good cycle to like think about again resources long term and sort of planting seeds in that direction as all of this new energy is happening, this dynamic stuff, like, and what do I have and what do I want to do with it, thinking around that at the new moon and then the full moon, just being able to like find, actualize, and allow success to ripen. Because, sometimes even if it feels like things are wonky and not going your way, like there are small victories, there may be significant victories if we open to ourselves to allowing good things and like success to actually actualize in our life.
I will say that I pre-wrote little sentences for myself for this part so that I would move quickly. And my words here, my sentence here is the year opens by shining a light on systems, authority, and responsibility,
Mm.
asking us to consciously begin again. I can claim responsibility for the world I'm building, laying foundations aligned with my integrity.
Beautiful. I love that.
Love that. Yeah, I resist New Year's resolutions. However, I think with Neptune and Saturn going into Aries, this is a good one for statements like that.
This is a year. This is a year for a New
Yeah.
Year's
If there was ever one, I would say it's probably this one. Yeah, especially because the last one there was like wonkiness, or I think it was a Mercury retrograde, like before the first. So like, even if you wanted a New Year's resolution, like it was going to be weird. And then next year we have
Yeah.
Venus retrograde. So like you may as well, like plant a seed that like you're going to actually reap benefits from whatever it is that you're starting.
Yeah.
All right.
Next
Next, we
cycle.
have the Aquarius lunar cycle, which starts off with an eclipse. We get our first Mercury retrograde. We get Jupiter stationing direct, our second eclipse, and a couple of ingresses, and our Saturn conjoined Neptune.
Yeah. Yeah. So Aquarius is a cycle where we can set intentions on visioning, planning for the future, liberation, revolution. And so the keywords that we have here, which I actually can't see the whole screen, if you could just
What?
inch it up a
Oh, I
little.
could.
Uh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, seeds are planted this in this lunation. We're rolling with change. We're riding the waves of change. We have a new orientation to individualism, and it's a cycle of daring. And it's eclipse cycle. So that's my thought about eclipses is it's accelerated evolution. So this is where we notice that the pace of life is very quick. What do you think about the energy of this cycle, Aurora?
Yeah, I'm one of the proponents of like, you don't need to do magic, let the magic work you, let the universe drive, just sort of roll with it. And like, again, as we're going through these eclipses, I think noticing, again, while not trying to do anything, just sort of noticing and allowing, change to happen, and again, I always get these mixed up. Solar eclipse, is that the new moon or the full moon?
Human.
It
Mhm.
is the new moon.
Yeah.
Okay. Solar eclipse, new moon. 10 years and I still, the basics. So the new moon being at the very, very, tail end of Aquarius, that's part of Aquarius is like, and everything is radically different. Like I am seeing things and experiencing things and understanding things that like I don't really get, but I'm going for it anyway. I have no idea what's going to happen. I am just going with it. Again, and this is air sign, so it's like intellectually, it's like, and maybe you're fried in the brain and like maybe you don't know what's happening, but you can tell that your brain is like trying to assimilate all the information and you've got to go forward. There's no going back. Like just sort of letting, giving in to the unknown and the things that you don't understand and sort of allowing trust to sort of, be planted again, like not consciously, but it just sort of rolling with it, like just letting yourself go with things you don't understand.
Mhm.
Um, and then the full moon, eclipse being around hard work and like how wonky that can be. And in theory, like if you put it, you chop wood, carry water, like eventually you maybe reap some benefits. Maybe you have a surplus of water, but maybe like it doesn't work out the way that you intended, or like you don't feel like putting in all of the effort and like letting things fall apart a bit, just sort of like as far as like the actualizing energy of the wonky eclipse cycle being sort of like what happens when like the outcome of hard work, like material, like this has worked for me in the past, doesn't end up coming to fruition or comes to fruition in ways that like you never expected. Maybe you didn't even put in the work and you still get the crops, like I didn't plant any corn at all, and now like what do I do? And then like a whole bushel shows up on your doorstep. It's the energy of hard work, like putting in the rigorous Virgo attention to detail, and maybe again some wonkiness that can manifest around that.
Great. My sentence I have is seeds are planted as we dare to move differently, trusting change rather than resisting it. I trust change as an ally and give myself permission to imagine beyond the familiar.
Mhm.
And we can move into Pisces. We'll have Mercury going direct, Saturn sextile Pluto, Venus entering your, oh my God, that word is Taurus, full moon, Mars into Aries, and Mercury into Aries.
Mhm. So Pisces. The Pisces new moon, Pisces is the last sign. We've talked about the transition from Pisces to Aries is a huge transition. And this new moon is happening at the end of Pisces. So spring equinox is going to happen just a couple of days after. Um, but this is a lunation to set an intention of releasing, surrendering, um, this kind of idea of shedding or purification, but not in a, a Puritan way, but just as in a releasing way, as a part of a Pisces lunar cycle. And we're going to be learning to navigate a new landscape and finding our footing in this lunation. Mars is going to enter Aries, and that is just an emphasis on how the sun is going to enter Aries, and the sun is going to conjoin Saturn and Neptune. And there's a lot of Aries kickoff, even though this is the Pisces lunar cycle. What do you think about Pisces, Aurora?
I guess as I look at again this 28 degrees of Pisces, like we've had so much at the end of Pisces for so long that it's like, even though some of the other big players have moved into the next sign, astrology is like, you know what? Like, if you thought you were done with like the redemptive element of like, again, Pisces, like you're going to get one more shot, really before the energy really starts to move out of, this last couple degrees of Pisces, like this is going to be your opportunity to sort of plant some seeds around, again, redemption. Like, how can I use my spiritual enlightenment and learnings over time in order to do better, to come back with a vengeance or come to start something new, in a way that, like as I prepare to start something new, I haven't quite gotten there yet, but like really feeling into the depths of the wateriness of Pisces and just like allowing, and again, just thinking about that like redemptive quality and like coming back. And then again, full moon coming to fruition in Libra 2, which is all about like contracts and agreements and marriage and bonds. And like, again, like how I, with my brain and my connection, air sign stuff, really being able to like, and from like, the depths of feeling what I know is needed and how I can do better coming forward, like, and then how do I conduct myself in my interactions with other people and like committing to what it is that, like it might not be like the depths of feeling, but like with my words and how I speak to people, like how can I use that redemptive quality in another element, and being able to make sure that like I'm holding up my end of the bargain spiritually, but then also in my relationships, and seeing what comes to fruition from that.
All right. And my words are, what cannot travel forward dissolves. Courage comes through softness and trust. I soften into trust and I allow what is ending to dissolve with grace.
Lovely.
And we'll move into the Aries cycle, our astrological new year. We'll have some ingresses and a Pluto moves retrograde, which happens for much of the year. And our new moon on the 17th.
So this is the Aries lunar cycle. It also happens at the end of Aries. But like you said, Aurora, this is where the year really starts to kick off. We have Uranus entering Gemini. We've got Mars in Aries squaring Jupiter. That's going to be pretty dynamic, a hot spot for Mars. So we have heating up, we have disruption, accountability, courageous heart. And I think of this as the solidarity of the Aries collective hero. So the accountability part comes from Mars in Aries conjoining Saturn. So that's kind of where that is coming from. What do you see with Aries, this Aries lunar cycle, Aurora?
So the first vibe that I get with looking at these, like, it's a really romantic vibe for me. Like, again, with this newness, it's sort of like So Aries, that third decan, is all about, so thinking about the new moon and planting the seed, the energy of like, it's also been referred to as like the burning rose. So it's like the spoken word poet. It's like saying the thing and with like jazz that like it just electrifies a group of people, the passions and the way that they can creatively, bring people together, even if they're fucking mad, like really, as my dog agrees. um, just really being able to like plant some seeds of like the fire that lights you up and then allowing them to come to fruition in Scorpio too, which is all about like sexual union. It's like that chemistry, like what comes when I like do the authentic thing that is beautiful to like the people who also like are spoken to by that artistry, and sort of like seeing like what connections come from that, and how we can feel with others as like the feelings are even incredibly dynamic. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear my dog, but I'll pause one minute.
All right. And my words are the spark ignites, courage becomes communal rather than solitary. I can act with courage that includes others. My fire serves the collective, and my choices honor shared responsibility.
Nice.
Moving into Taurus, we no eclipses, which is nice. We have a bunch of ingresses.
Taurus. So Taurus is the middle of spring. And as the pattern has been set for this year, the new moon happens at the end of Taurus. And we are fully into the springtime in the Northern Hemisphere, and into that fertility, that kind of coming into our bodies that Taurus is so wonderful at. It's a stabilizing energy as well. And so some keywords for this are tending fires, because this is a fiery year, concretizing desire, power struggles, meeting of minds, retracing steps. So the one key word that I thought of this is stamina. That's one of the things that Earth can give us when we have a lot of fire energy, is like keep the fire banked and keep our stamina going. What do you think about this, Aurora?
So I think that because there is so much fire and air, if you're somebody who's feeling like you need some grounding, you need some support, this is a really good cycle to, I think, plant some seeds where like you may or may not like again know what's going to happen, or when it comes to like your resources or stability that's going to be available to you. But Taurus 3 is all about like trusting that the seeds that you planted are going to come to fruition and weather the storms. um I think that it could be a really good time to sort of like plant seeds of like, earth centered things and just sort of trust that it's going to be fine, not try too hard to or put in too much effort even, just sort of like right sizing your efforts in that way and allowing, like when it comes to the full moon in Scorpio 1, like again it's all about instinct. It's that feral need, of Scorpio to like connect and be satisfied, and what it's like to, as you're trying to ground yourself and planting like these seeds of like, well, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that like I need some stuff and I need some support. Like, when it comes to like, the full moon and like sort of what comes of that, sort of allowing like, to feel in your body, like in your system, in your blood of like, and how are you lit up? How is your like primal self supported from the seeds that you planted in ways that allow you to essentially experience things, in a new dynamic way that maybe you never have before.
Nice. I have another somatic idea here with courage settles into my body, learning how to last. I sustain what matters. I move at the pace of trust and trusting my body to carry courage over time.
Mm, lovely. Okay.
All right, well, let's talk about Gemini, where we have some stuff going on. We have our ingress of Chiron into Taurus, that we talked about at length earlier. We have our Mercury retrograde, Jupiter going into Leo, Saturn squaring Chiron in those early degrees, um, Neptune stationing retrograde in Aries. And we have this.
Yeah. So Gemini.
This is my boy howdy month first, my
I
first boy
know.
howdy month.
Yes. The keywords are cut off for me at the bottom of my screen because
Really?
yeah, it is.
That's weird. All right, I can read them. They
Uh,
are boy howdy.
mhm.
Stimulating, anticipating, agitated, anxious, expansive, dedicating self, opportunity, choice, and then overall learning.
Yes, overall learning. Gemini is about learning, and there's a lot to learn. We're going to have Uranus. I think Uranus has already entered Gemini, but Mars goes into Gemini in this month, and that is when we have Mars
Oh,
uh,
sorry.
joining the planet Uranus this month. And that will be on July 4th, kind of a interesting day. Last year, Trump really co-opted July 4th, so we'll see what happens this year. But this is a hot spot. Mars and Uranus is a real explosive kind of energy. And how do we harness that? How do we approach that in our magic? Um, it is being I kind of think of Gemini as being good at diffused awareness. So aware of lots of different things at once and not being overwhelmed that there's a lot going on, but finding that sort of diffused awareness can be a way to just let the energy move through us rather than us grasping onto how it may be anxious, it may be overwhelmed by a lot of input. And the the gift of this Gemini energy is curiosity and magical connections. So synchronicity, things that happen that you couldn't ever plan, but are full of magic and full of possibility. So that's really a part of this lunar cycle as well. How do you think about this boy howdy uh, lunar cycle?
I mean, this combination of the new moon and full moon, like the big focus that I get here is like how your thoughts manifest your reality and like how your brain and the way that you envision things like directly manifests in ways that science has proven and the way that magicians have always known. But like, so Gemini 3, new moon, planting a seed in Gemini 3, which is the energy of making a measured choice. It is making a conscious, and I have weighed the options, I have done my research, and now I have to like make a choice and make sure that I carry it, and it's going to have impact. There are going to be consequences of this decision that I have made, this thing that I have said, planting a seed of like making a choice, taking a stand, um, being very conscious with how if you are one of those people that has inner monologue, dialogue, daydreaming during the like brain activities where you're thinking about things during the day, like having a conscious awareness of what those things are and recognizing that like they're probably going to be way more ripe than maybe you're used to during this cycle. And so planting seems very intentionally like big mantra month, like say the same phrase that empowers you 1,000 times a day if you can. And then on the full moon, seeing what manifests. Capricorn 1 is all about, it's the very, very, very beginning of Earth energy. It's like, and now there is something that was not here before. What is it? What does it feel like? Like, what shape is it? What color? What does it smell like? What does my senses say that it is? And if I can touch it. And that being a direct, the what has ripened from what you mentally decided was your seed at the beginning of the month.
Mm, awesome. What's your sentence?
Oh my God. All right, here we go. Courage requires mental flexibility and conscious choice amid noise. I
Mm,
can stay curious and responsive. I choose my thoughts with care and allow new narratives to take root.
nice.
All right.
Love it.
Let's move into Cancer, which is Boy Howdy 2.0.
Oh, yeah.
Um, there's a lot going on this month, and we're running out of time, so I won't list everything. It's in the packet, but there's a lot of stuff in the first half of the month going on.
A
And
lot of Jupiter stuff, it looks like.
Mhm. Yeah.
oh yeah, a
Well, there's
lot of
a lot of
Jupiter
things
stuff.
happening, especially you could see around the July 20th and 21st. Just kind of think about that. That is a
Yeah.
lot of things going on. And when, we began talking about the planets are weaving, and there's a lot of weaving going on. Jupiter's part of that weaving. Uranus is trine Pluto. Jupiter is trine Neptune. Jupiter is opposite Pluto. There's a lot. Uh, could you go back to the
Yeah, sorry.
Yes. So there is a lot going on in Cancer, which is a lunar cycle that is like about nurturing, but it's also about protecting. And there's a protectiveness that can turn into a defensiveness, which can turn into an aggression that can happen with Cancer. But there is like the intention, the way to meet that moment, the way to meet that othering, because we want to create home, and sometimes the shadow of that is that we want to other people so that we feel safer. There's a big challenge for us to not do that, and I believe that Uranus sextile Neptune and trine Pluto will help us to embrace otherness, embrace people who are not like us. It's a beautiful time to expand our allies, expand the people in our movements. Who have we not felt comfortable with that we can invite in? Because Uranus and Gemini trine Pluto is pretty open-minded about other people being different from us. And that's what I'm hoping for this Boy Howdy 2.0 month. What do you think about this month, Aurora?
It just the new moon, the full moon, and with all of it just feels really emotional. I think it's going to be like a really like opportunity for like deep healing that like is probably going to be really loaded when it comes to feelings, especially looking at that full moon. Like it's not directly conjunct the Pluto, but it is pretty dang close. So like as you're planting seeds in 21 Cancer, or like in Cancer 3 and the new moon, thinking about, like where you are putting and how you are using the parts of your emotional body that are just flowing over and you're just wanting to give, or you're having all of these emotions, and like where do they flow? Like
Mhm.
is the water hot or cold? Where, what shape does it take? Does it have a shape? Is it just coming out of things? Are there holes in like just having an awareness of like how you can intentionally shape all of the dynamic, emotional experiences that, maybe you're having at this time. And just again, like using it to your benefit, remembering that like compassion and giving to others and being there for others, letting somebody cry on your shoulder, like just really planting the seed of like empathy and being present and taking care of yourself while also like not trying to make things what they're not. Just authentic feeling where that's going, and then allowing it to come to fruition, and this Plutonian energy of like, it's the exile energy is ripening. It's manifesting, like, that that otherness that Tara's referencing. I think othering it or uniqueness, and doing things differently is definitely like there's going to be some manifestation points that are very Plutonian, like that we're all kind of going through it when it comes to like feeling like we belong, and like how we treat people who are different than us. Yeah. That's what I
Nice. All right. Love becomes the magic that absorbs and transforms change. I can lead with love. I create safety within myself and offer care as a transformative force.
Hmm.
All right, here we go. Leo, we have eclipses again and a Jupiter trine Saturn. Oh, no, what? Come back. Too many. There we go.
Yes. The second lunar eclipse season of the year. We're going to have a solar eclipse in Leo and a lunar eclipse in Pisces. So Leo is a sign about generosity. I think it's about shining. It's about nobility. It is a quality of courage that has a noble side to it. And in this reclaiming tradition that the three of us have been part of, we have a tool called the Iron Pinnacle, and one of the points of that tool is pride. And I think that we often think about Leo negatively as a prideful, self-centered energy, but actually pride is something that fuels our dignity, and we need our dignity. So this is a time where accelerated evolutionary experiences around self-possession and dignity are going to be present. And if we need to let go of some ego things, just be really gentle with ourselves, because there is something that we're also learning about the place of ego. Not that it's a bad thing, but maybe our ego needs some lessons. Well, that's some of the things around this lunar cycle that I'm thinking about.
And then for the moons, new moon in Leo 3, like this eclipse energy, so like disruptive, erratic things, again, not manifesting, noticing, and just flowing as best we can. And Leo 3 is all about like defending oneself. It's not on the offense. It's like it's defense energy. And just when it comes to like how we protect ourselves, how we stand up for what we believe in, not going out and trying to pick fights with people, but just like when we're approached, being able to sort of plant the seeds of like, this could be a really good month for like warding and protection energy. Although, again, I said no magic. So, like, maybe even just having the awareness that we're safe, right? Like just just doing our best to sort of trust that like we're going to have the right reaction to whatever comes our way. And when it comes to the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, like from this place of like defensiveness, standing up for what's important to us, that's part of ego, right? Like what's important to us, um you know the wonder and sort of like the confusion, but also like the intrigue. I think of Pisces one energy as like the white rabbit energy, where it's like, is this actually real? Like, but I'm gonna kind of follow it. Like, I don't know that I really care. It's really, it's a curiosity from like our feeling self, right? And just being willing to let spirit sort of like call us in and sort of like see, through this like wonky season of, disruptions that, eclipses tend to bring, just sort of like the wonder and awe that can come from like the unexpected, I guess I would say.
Nice. All right, here's what I got. Courage is no longer performative. It is embodied and owned. I can stand in my own inner authority. I can express my truth without performance and let my heart lead with quiet confidence.
Mm.
Those are so good.
Oh, yeah. All right, here we go, Virgo. A bunch happening on the new moon. Uranus sextile Neptune, and Venus turns retrograde.
Mhm.
Can you see the keywords on this one, Tara? Or do you need
I
me?
can. I can. Yes. So Virgo
Okay.
is, I chose that keyword medicine because I think of Virgo as this sign in the season where we look for the medicine. Virgo is so attentive to so many details of what's needed and the powers of different herbs, literally, but also medicines. So we've gone through an intense few months and had a eclipse cycle. And what medicine have we learned about? What have we collected through these experiences, and what do we have to offer? This is a time when the year turns towards the harvest times, and we're turning towards like sharing what we've learned and sharing what we've harvested and moving towards this kind of sharing of things. And so, other keywords are conversations with our wounds, power and will. Yeah, it's just a recognition of how much we have already gone through this year. Venus is getting ready to station retrograde in this cycle as well. I have said that I think this will be a time where Venus touches in on their rage. And that's also medicine. Like sometimes anger is appropriate. And I think that might be important to remember during this lunar cycle. What would you like to say about this, Aurora?
So I think the sweet spot of this combination of new and full moon is going to be like if we're actually willing to be present and to learn lessons and to make the most of like super dynamic, erratic change, like this is going to be the month where you can actually like consciously manifest and do magic around energy that was probably intense and maybe kind of wonky at the beginning of the year. So like there was an eclipse in Virgo too, where we were talking about that hard work not really paying off. Like this is the month where if you plant that seed and you're willing to put in the work, the like not fabulous labor that like brushing your teeth because it's going to keep your teeth from rotting out of your head, like being able to do the unfabulous work that is important, like, and allowing that to sort of like reap some benefits in the full moon in the flavor of Aries 1, which is again that like super new, unfamiliar energy and sort of like our responses to that and like doing our best to sort of just show up as we can. Like you'll be able to like, if you get to know and you sort of see how Aries 1 has like shown up for you and all of like these planets that are ingressing into Aries, especially Saturn, who's like, I'll give you good stuff if you learn my lessons. This is going to be like, then you can reap the benefits. Um, or maybe even like, I'm hesitant to say it, but like full moons are also good for banishing, energy too. Like, maybe you can kind of like, sort of like shut the door and close the thing, maybe like, nip some, unhelpful reflexes in the bud here a little bit. You can sort of just be like, okay, well, I don't really need to be doing that. Like maybe because I keep lashing out at people, in ways that aren't actually helpful or they don't make me feel good and they don't actually help anybody. Like maybe I could try to start channeling that in a different way and banish it and sort of see how the energy like shapes up after I consciously shifted in that way.
Oh, it's my turn. Courage becomes medicinal, precise, intentional, and reparative. I can listen to what needs repair. My attention can be precise. My actions can be healing, and my service is intentional. All right, here we go. Libra, with a direct station, Mercury going retrograde, new moon, full moon, Venus retrograding into Libra.
A Libra. This is happening. The lunar cycles are starting to creep towards the beginning or the middle. Like it's not the end of Libra, it's closer to the middle of Libra is where this new moon is happening. And Libra is about balance, it's about beauty, it's about equity and justice. So what's fair? Because Venus is retrograding during this season of Libra, there is an acute awareness of things that are unfair. And we're going to rehash them because retrogrades are rehashing. So we might have old relationships coming back to us, old people that we've had issues with that we want to revisit, or maybe we want to let go. Like that's the healing of a Venus retrograde as well, as old people come back into our lives and we go, no, I'm done with that. So this is a time of rehashing relationship stuff. And really with this idea of, is it fair? Am I getting out of it what I want? And what's fair about this? So I think of the keyword I'm using for this one is allying. So as we go through this process of kind of like assessing what feels good and bad in relationships, who are our allies and how can we become allies for more justice and fairness. That, what do you think about this lunar cycle, Aurora?
It just makes me think about like the clarifying and helpful nature of boundaries and how I think a lot of times when people think about boundaries, so going to the new moon, Libra 2, which is, the energy of contracts. And like, this would be a really good time for you to like sign a contract or make an agreement, make a promise, set a boundary. Boundaries, I think people think that like they're this hard, malleable, like defensive thing when really it's like the gift of clarity and just making sure that there's an understanding of what you will and will not do, what you are not okay with. And that can actually bring peace. Libra wants everybody to work it out, hug it out. But like, when it comes to planting seeds, like, being able to like make an agreement with another person or a group, maybe even with your relationship you have with yourself, and being able to like recognize that like when it comes to like the outcome of that agreement or that boundary that you're setting, that like it might actually in Taurus 1 might help you clear out some of the stuff that's like not actually helpful. It might end up manifesting changes in your resources or what you have available in the earth realm because like you basically started, with the seed of like, and this is what is needed. This is what we're agreeing upon. And, that lack of um, confusion, and having that certainty can really sort of end up, again, getting rid of stuff that you don't actually need and end up like helping you figure out when it maybe comes to relationships as you're going through this in the Venus retrograde, really being able to like see what's still working and what, maybe isn't anymore. You're up, Hemlock.
Well, okay. I was just writing down what you were saying because I loved that last sentence. See what is working versus what isn't anymore. My sentence though is true courage confronts power within relationships, not avoidance. I can practice courage in relationships. I can honor balance, speak my boundaries, and choose justice through connection. All right, moving into the Scorpio cycle, we get Venus and Mercury stationing direct and a couple of trines on the back half. Can you see the keywords, Tara, or do you need me for these ones? I know when they're low, they're more difficult for you.
Yeah, they are. Would you like to read them? Because I can't see them.
I'm happy to. Relational evaluations, opportunities for growth, light in the shadows, spark in the dark, compost, and our big word, reclamation.
Yes. Well, Scorpio is that transition, and it's the season where the veils are thin. We are in touch with our ancestors. And it's like the end of a Venus retrograde cycle, and we're really kind of reclaiming the parts of ourselves that we want to bring out of this underworld journey. So we're going to emerge from Scorpio into Sagittarius, and that is like this dying death process, that then we come back into the upper world and bring back with us what we truly value and want to carry forward into the last part of the year. And so I think of this as just that kind of empowerment of letting things go that need to be let go of so that we can reclaim what we really do care about. What do you think, Aurora?
So with the new moon, no saying the date. So the moon is going to be new, like right before Venus stations direct. So like in theory, and again, it's a different sign, right? Like it'll be, coming direct in Libra, but we have just gone through like this era of Venus and relationships, like getting real wonky again, that like dry, drab, like not that really blah, like energy. Um, that new moon right before it goes direct is like, again, it's in that like sensual, like, union, that merging, like, chemistry aspect of like, two different elements coming together and sort of like doing what they do and seeing what happens. Um, so like planting a seed maybe around like, and it's tricky because I feel like, maybe we haven't integrated all of our lessons yet because Venus retrograde isn't even over yet, but just sort of thinking about your experiences with like sensuality, hunger, instinct, and desire, and sort of maybe like planting a seed of like authentic connection with the primal bodies, maybe yours as well as like someone else's if you find yourself intimate with someone. Um, and yeah, from that space of like, planting, chemistry, being able to sort of like from how we emotionally connect authentically with other people, as feral, creatures of this planet, like the full moon has, the right potential of, this sense of like, and from this, like, there's so many questions to be had and so many new things to be learned. I think that there could be like brand new insight that maybe, or even like a flood of insight that was unexpected from like, what the experiences you had connecting with other people that like just sort of might feel a little bit overwhelming, but could be, again, if you're able to sort of pluck them out, maybe write them down, really give yourself the ability to like learn something new that you couldn't have learned had you, not connected with somebody else or whatever you planted around the new moon. You're up.
Right. I have, oh my gosh. From decay, the truest spark is recovered. I can reclaim my power from the depths. I trust transformation and allow that which is composted to become new life. And we're moving into our final lunar cycle of 2026. We have a couple four direct stations. I did something wrong here. Those are incorrect. Anyway, I'll fix that. And some ingresses.
Sagittarius. Like I said in the last lunar cycle, that began in Scorpio, and then the sun moved into Sagittarius before the cycle was over. Sagittarius is about bringing the light out, and I think about this intention of the year, and this would be a good month to return to thinking about what it was like at the beginning of the year, being a spark in the dark. What has that journey been like? What has that journey of the vulnerable and courageous heart been like? And what do we keep hold of as the flame that we're going to keep bringing forward? I think that things by the end of the year, we will see the effects of authoritarianism. And I think we're also going to see the effects of a different kind of solidarity, a different kind of heroism that isn't like, oh, the one person's going to come save us, but that we are going to save ourselves and we are going to save ourselves over and over. I think we'll be different people by the end of the year, but we'll also be the same people that have a flame to carry forward into the next winter time. So yeah, I think of this as the kindled flame, and it's still hope, and it's light on new realities, and it's illumination. Um, yeah. So what do you think about that last lunar cycle, Aurora?
Yeah, I like the reminder that like Sagittarius season and that energy in general is like very like spark in the dark. Um, I think, so with the new moon being in Sagittarius too, I mean that energy is another like combative bit of the zodiac only because it's sort of like, it's like dueling opposites. It's like, like different ends of the polarity when it comes to how we're using our energy and what we're doing with ourselves. It's sort of like, it's kind of like dueling for like which one's gonna win. Like there can be only one. It's very much that energy. But like if you think about it, and we're working with that in a constructive way, that can sort of in all the ways that Tere said, when it comes to like showing up and having, like when it comes to your activism, like recognizing that like if there is a move or a gesture or a consequence of like one end of the spectrum that is totally not you or what you believe in, like, or something really like, really disheartening or terrible, that like you can counter that by being the exact opposite and bringing forth that light of like, and we can triumph. It can feel like everything is crumbling down, and like, and what if this is the moment when it all changes and everything gets better? And I'm coming forth with the opposite energy with full force because that is the gift of Sagittarius too. And then allowing, like, through planting that seed of like maybe being the opposite or bringing the opposite of what is happening, depending on, what's going on. Like the full moon is in Cancer 1, which is like the mama bear energy. It's like the nurturing of Cancer 1, where it's like, and I'm going to protect my kid. Like, who is protected, who is saved by an I am being willing to bring forth with full potency, like I will be your adversary. And like, that's going to save people. That's going to make people feel cared about. That's going to make people feel maybe a part of a community or cared about by somebody who maybe they don't even know, but like, are a part of a greater movement or a light or something that is needed, that like is being fought very hard from the other direction.
Mm.
So,
Nice. All right. The year ends with a flame that can guide others forward. I can carry hope forward. My vision is guided by truth, and the light I tend becomes a beacon for others.
Lovely.
So, overall, our year core themes are kind of the arc of how the year is going to go. Tara, do you want to speak to this slide, or do you want me to?
Well, I think you can. I would like for
Okay.
you.
Sure. So the core themes that I saw were reclaiming power through tenderness and truth, courage as collective, relational, and embodied, a light born not from dominance, but from integrity, transformation through accountability, love, and endurance.
Mm.
And then, taking all of our keywords and mashing them kind of a little shorter. The year is kind of has the arc of initiation, disruption, shedding, ignition, integration, reclamation, and illumination. So we have a big arc ahead of us in 2026. Do
be
either of you want to
prepared for
see?
things to just be so totally different. Don't be afraid to try new things. Like, your mind is going to be blown. You're going to be capable of things that you never thought that you were capable of. And the world is going to look super different at the end of it, but it could be everything that we need. And I think that that is like the hope of the spark in the dark at the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
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 Tara,
Join
yes.
our mystery school,
Yes.
because this is just the seed that we planted, and we're going to develop these things. This year, we're going to focus several months on what we call elections, which is choosing moments, choosing charts for magic. So, or other things that you want to have happen, but for me, it'll be about magic. And I think that that could be a wonderful thing to do this year with this energy. And I hope that we have some new students join us.
Yeah,
Come on,
join us.
join.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
And
Thank you,
best luck to you all in the
Aurora
new
and
year.
Hemlock.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Have a good night and a good 2026.
Yes.
Bye bye.
Are you going to stop the recording?